Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Monday. Let's continue on with our examination of the Celtic Triads. This week we're going to be looking at the one that talks about three things which move together as quickly the one as the other. These were compiled by John F. Wright, 1995. So the full triad reads, there are three things which move together as quickly the one as the other: lightning, thought, and the help of the mighty ones. Let's start with lightning. It's this brief flash in the sky, blink and you miss it, and the thunder that follows lasts longer than the lightning itself. But when we observe the impact of where the lightning strikes, it leaves a mark, and that mark is permanent. Sometimes the lightning mark doesn't just scorch, the immediate area where it struck, but it can cause a wider fire, which leads to even more consequences that can result in devastation. But within that devastation, there also comes a renewal of the land, and that is a byproduct of that devastation. So it's an interesting thing, interesting phenomena, and you can't predict when it'll happen, and when it does occur, events take on a life of their own. Next, let's talk about thought. We don't realize how fast we think and how much we think until we sit down and we decide we're going to meditate. And then suddenly, our brains are just this cacophony of thoughts. Not only that, but these thoughts, they're just whizzing by at astonishing speed, and it can feel very random and unhinged. Nothing is really strung together in a linear fashion. And that's because we're constantly taking in data and we can't consciously process it all. And whenever we're trying to get to a quiet place in our minds, that's when we realize just how overloaded our brains really are. But despite that, and despite all the chaos and confusion of it, every action we ultimately take begins with thought, consciously or otherwise. Everything we observe in the world is a product of previous thought, and then it becomes speech, and then that's turned into actions, and those actions become habit until we can see something visible. That process is deceptively slow, but because the thought of it all, the thing that sparked it, just like that lightning, it happened just like that. It was just the implementation of it that took time. Now this brings us to the help of the mighty ones. The expression mighty ones I am interpreting as referring to the gods themselves. They are indeed mighty, and they can provide help as they deem fit, when they deem fit, in whatever form they deem fit. And the form that help takes varies considerably, and it can arrive in a very unpredictable fashion, sometimes when we least expect it or in a way that is surprising to us. Now, seldom do we get anything that would resemble what monotheistic religions would describe as miracles. But I have found that when the gods decide they're going to step in and help us, most often this occurs by providing flashes of insight that end up being the missing link of our thought process, and that ends up clarifying issues that we've been struggling with and simplifying what course of action is going to be most suitable. It can feel like we're just plodding along, climbing a mountain while carrying a backpack full of rocks, and then gods give us just a little nudge, a little lightning bolt, a little flash of insight, a little spark of thought, and then suddenly we're on top of that mountain we've been climbing. We're no longer carrying the rocks. We are feeling lighter, and it took no time at all. And that's how swiftly their help can actually come upon us. Now, implementing that thought, again, like implementing other forms of thought, that is kind of the tricky point. However, if we make the most of these opportunities and make the most of their counsel, that is ultimately to our well-being. So that's what I had to think about this week's Celtic Triads. I'd love to hear your impressions. You can leave them in the comments section below, or you can come see us at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below. And as always, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.